right in time.
Yes, perfectly. Thank you for taking time for being with us. I'm Wim de Witte. I'm the program director of the festival, and
Oh, good.
it's a very special edition, of course, this year, but we're very happy that we can do it this way. So let's start, I would say.
Let's try.
Yes.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
I'm very honored to speak to an amazing actress whom you might know from the films of Christian Petzold, Jella, Phoenix, Barbara, but also from Anton Corbijn's The Most Wanted Man, or the American television series Homeland. Nina Haas, thank you for being with us today here in a digital way. We are really excited to show two films of you in our program this year. They are part of a focus on German cinema. It's Das Vorspiel and Pelican Blood. First of all, how was it learning to play the violin?
Quite a task. But I think I started around 6 months before we started shooting. And part of it was while I was shooting Pelican Blood.
Okay.
So we were shooting Pelican Blood in Bulgaria. And so every weekend or so, I had a Skype call and a lesson with my violin teacher playing the violin. So it was quite a challenge. But while doing it, I actually learned a lot about Anna, because if you play this instrument, which I play the piano, but to have an instrument made of wood on your body, kind of becoming a third arm of some kind, it's a very sensual feeling. And also with the piano, you see, if you want to, you see what you're doing, you know which note you hit or so. But with the violin, it has to be much more intuitive, and you have to, at a certain point, let go, lose the control and just trust that you hit it and you know what to do with the bow arm and with your how to grab the tones. And that had so much to do for me with Anna in her life. This counter position of being in control of your life, but also of your play, because this is what really haunts her. This kind of, I want to have this experience in front of an audience, do what is my passion and share it with an audience. And she can't, because she controls herself too much, because she has an idea of perfection that no one knows where that comes from. Who tells you what is perfect, other than you really can't play, or so it doesn't sound good or so. But so this was so interesting for me to learn. I didn't learn the violin, I learned the pieces that Ina Weisse, the director, gave me, which are the most complicated ones you can do as a violin player. So because I also didn't want the audience to think, can she play? Or, I didn't want them to step out and think about the actress or something. It's just, that's Anna. She's a very good violinist. And I didn't want to constrict the camera woman and Ina by having to find angles.
I doubted no second that you were a professional violin player.
Thank you so much. Yeah. It's anyway something I enjoy about this job anyway, to dive into those kind of things, to learn a little bit of everything.
Yeah. In the other film, you had to learn to train horses, but we'll come to that. The director of this film is Ina Weisse. She's an actress herself. How does it come across in her directing style?
I wouldn't say in her style, but in a sense of understanding how you feel on set, and on knowing how to channel the emotions, channel the strength, the power you have as an actress, knowing exactly, maybe if there's an emotional scene, you might want to hit the first take, because then you kind of have to work again to find something new and fresh. And so all these things, she's very well aware and very protective, which gives you as an actor, a feeling of complete trust, and that you're really willing to go a step further, maybe, because you feel very, very protected and understood in your craft.
In your work, We meet Anna, your character, when she's definitely out of balance. She's a teacher who can't perform herself, and she tries to perfect the student. Is perfectionism an obstacle in our society, you feel?
Well, I don't know if it's sometimes that's what I meant at the beginning. Who tells you or who demands what kind of a perfection is everyone striving towards, you know? So I don't know if the individual creates it themselves or if there's really something that you need to achieve. But especially in art, I find it very hard to grasp what this perfectionism should be. You know, it's if you are somewhere where you can start to create and interpret in a way that no one else can with your instrument, then that must be in a way imperfect. I always look for the imperfection because these are the cracks that are special, that you can't create in a controlled manner and so on. And that's where the creation lies, you know. So I don't know in society if we strive for perfection, but maybe we don't look for the imperfection, or we don't allow the imperfection so much because it's something you can't control. That's maybe how I would see it.
The film has been compared to La Pianiste or Whiplash, but it focuses more on motherhood than these other two. What do you think of these comparisons to the other films?
I understand where they're coming from, but I think we have a different point of view, different angle. Like you say, it's also about her as a mother, her as a wife, her as a lover, you know, and of course, mainly her as a musician and as someone and as a teacher, you know. It's also a film about, you know, how the influences you have, the kind of what you bring into the lesson with a young, very vulnerable being, you know. So if you can free yourself from, like in Anna's case, for example, where she grew up in a family where there was the strive for perfection, up to a point that even her mother thinks illness is a failure. So can you imagine what that does to someone's psyche? And Anna is someone who tries to free herself from that, but nevertheless, it's like something animalistic in her that she can't hold back. And in the moment of her failure, she just puts all of that onto her poor student, you know, who doesn't know what the hell is going on. And what was the question?
What do you think of the comparison with the other films like Whiplash and La
Pianiste? Yeah, exactly. So there it's more with Whiplash. It has this aspect of the teacher who puts his own frustration, not getting to where he wanted to be as an artist, onto the pupil, but kind of this fascination that this pupil is just so good. As he could never achieve that. So it's also this admiration and this kind of, I want to bring you there. That's not so much in our film, I would say. No.
Okay. The other film is Pelican Blood. Even though it's a totally different film, it also features a mother and her child. Both films are about motherhood. One mother neglects her child, the other desperately tries to raise it and help her daughter. What was the difference between the approach of the two characters, of the two mother roles?
Well, mainly the world they're living in. That was the starting point for me, because Anna is very much settled in the, let's say, Berliner bourgeoisie world, you know, in the classical music world. And big difference, she has a husband and a lover. So she doesn't seem to have a problem with men. So maybe in some other way, but you might discover that yourself in the room, but not, you know, physically. And that's a complete difference for Wiebke in Pelican Blood. So she's a single mother. She already adopted a girl from Bulgaria before. So you see her in the beginning on her farm that she created her own. She built it up on her own. she works with animals, with horses, in a different way than others would. She does the horsemanship, how do you call it? She does it the horsemanship way, you know, a different approach of like inviting an animal to work with you and not force it. And she is much more, you know, she's a cowgirl. She's a country girl. She goes in the stables in the morning. So all that is, to me, very much already a big difference between these two characters. And she's a fighter on her own, up to a point that she maybe even doesn't allow help, but also maybe she doesn't get the right help at the moment. It's up to you to decide as a viewer. But this is it's a completely different thing she's struggling with, I would say.
Yeah. There's another job you had to learn, training the horses.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fantastic because, I mean, I've done a film the first time I got into contact with horses, because I was never this horse girl, you know, back when I was a teenager. But I was shooting a film called Gold from Thomas Aslan. And there we were in Canada, and we were really, it was, I would say, to cut it short, a road movie on horses. Yeah. So we were on the back of the horses for 6 weeks. And with us was a cowboy who was like in 65, 66, who had all the knowledge and all the understanding towards these animals. And from him, I learned a lot. So that helped me a lot for Pelican Blood.
Okay.
And but then nevertheless, I made these, you know, there are these so-called manager workshops with where you learn to do the horsemanship. How do you call it? Do it the horsemanship way? Or so, I don't know exactly how to say it in English, but it's something where you have to be very much in your midst and invite the animal to come to you and work with you. And you feel really, if you are not in your midst, it just doesn't work, because they don't understand what you want. And they play games with you and they don't take you seriously. So I understood again through this work a lot about Wiebke, because she is in her midst. And nevertheless, throughout, at the end of the film, you hear that there's a gap somewhere in her, you know, and she has a scar. You can think about where that comes from and all this. So it's this constant strive, you know, being in between, being sane and wholesome and confident, but then there's something. Can you overcome this gap that you have, the wound that you carry within you, if you don't look at it? You know, and it doesn't seem to work with the girl. So the girl challenges her immensely in that way. Yeah. So it was, I learned how to love horses, because they just don't bullshit around. They mirror you. Oh my God. So honestly, it's great.
Working with children and with animals is always the most difficult things in film business, isn't it? So here you combined both
Quite
of them.
A challenge. Quite a challenge.
Maybe more than a film about a possessed child is a study about motherhood. Even the title refers to something motherly. Could you elaborate a bit on the title? Pelican Blood?
Yeah, it's an old myth, which was, do you say hereditary? You know, no, oh God, how is this word? You know, if you're not Christian, do you know the German? No, anyway, it went into the Christian belief also, which is that the pelican mother, at a point of immense misery, where there is no food around or anything, she will open her breast and feed her blood to the little ones, to her kids. And that is a little bit what Wiebke goes through. So it's this, and it's also the question of the film, you know, is this okay to do that? Isn't that what we all should be doing? It's a film about empathy. It's a film about helping others up to a point that you might lose yourself or do harm to yourself. Or is that something that's necessary for us as social human beings? So that's amongst other questions in this film.
I read somewhere that the director Katrien Gebe was inspired by sculptures of a Belgian artist, Belinda de Breuker, who works a lot with horses and horse bodies. Did you know the work of Belinda de Breuker? Was there any reference?
Not.
No?
He hid that fact from me.
That's a nice thing. Let me see, what else do I have? It was a very physical role, exhausting in a lot of ways, I assume. And indeed, can you tell a bit more, because we will use this for the other film, that you also had to learn the violin during these shooting of Pelican Blood?
Yeah, I mean, normally I don't really I like to dive into what I'm doing right at this moment. I don't want to
concentrate on that part.
Concentrate on that and don't have to think about another character. But since playing an instrument or learning an instrument is also something very calming, or takes your mind off things completely, that wasn't so complicated for me. I didn't really have to think about the other character, but I knew eventually after these 3 months I can grab it and
the other character. Yeah.
So it was also a nice distraction and fleeing the craziness of the shooting weeks, in Bulgaria, which was very concentrated and fantastic, but also, as you say, very challenging.
Yeah, because also with the kids also.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So also with the little girl, where we,
who's an amazing actress, the little girl, Raya.
She actually, I would call her an actress, because she knows the difference between acting and so she never took it personally, or she never misunderstood that this is a game, this is a play, but nevertheless, and I understand her completely from an intuition point of view. You don't want to do it again and again and again. Filming. So you need to do it from all kinds of angles, or the camera had a technical mistake, or whatever. You got to do it again.
Yeah.
And to recreate this fury in her again and again and again, that was quite challenging, up to a point for Katrin and for me, where I was like always, behind the camera would turn and I would play the reaction sometimes. So it was somewhat a crazy shoot, but which helped me a lot for Wiebke, for this. It's too much, So I didn't really have to pretend.
Yeah. Did you work a lot with the girl before the actual shooting? Were there a lot of rehearsals? Yeah.
No, what was fantastic was Katrin found her, and later found out that her mother is actually a children coach and has a children's theater in Sofia. Yeah. So she was with us the whole time.
Yeah.
She could work with her or give her ideas, or say, now do the tiger, do the we created different stories for her. And one was mainly the story of Raya, was that she desperately wants to become a veterinarian, so a doctor for animals. But she has to do certain tasks. Again, it's like little exams throughout the story, which were these things, that where she had to be very violent, or set fire, or whatever, that comes up. And at the end, we really celebrated her. She got a big exam, and she got, so she didn't get a trauma from this from the story. But that was our luck, that Simone, the mother, was really could shelter her also in that space, and could work with her and get the most out of it.
Both films focus on female characters. Both are directed by female directors. How important was that to you? Could these films also be made by a male director?
I don't think so. But at the same way, for me, it's more about personalities, really. But I think what both of these directors showed and were fearless with is going further with this female psyche. You know, Anna is a very complicated, complex person, and she does things that I've never seen a woman in a portrait like this. I've never seen. Basically, she takes what she wants. Also, she's sometimes you don't understand where she's coming from, but she's very what is the word? It's selbstverständlich. It's like without any. She allows herself whatever comes up. She goes with it. And that's mainly a manly portrayal, I would say. I found that in Anna, that I thought, wow, I've actually was never able to portray a woman like this, in this complexity. And the same with Pelican Blood. It's this view on maternity, telling about the pressures of maternity and what society expects from you, you know, these images, but also this, when you adopted a child, it's difficult. Why don't you give it away? You know, would you say that to a mother who gave birth to this child, or wouldn't then the mother be the problem? You know, wouldn't she then be the one you could attack because you did something to this guy? So it's just very complicated, and the way these women describe their characters was for me a female point of view in its complexity. That said, it's not a criterion for me, you know, if it's a female director or not, because both views and sides have the contradiction sometimes is also very, very interesting, you know. But I enjoyed it a lot, working with these two women.
How did you survive the last few months? I guess there was not much shooting and...
No, yeah. In the beginning, you know, it was okay, because you kind of tell yourself, well, you can do everything you always wanted to do, which half it came to true, but it's basically, if you lose what is the main part of your life, and I grew up with it, you know, it's my way of expressing myself, and I need to express myself, and I need to be in an exchange with others, with the people I work with, but then later on with the audience. I have to feel something is in movement, and that I feel a bit stagnated, but very hopeful that I'll get back to do what I love most. You know?
Any project coming up soon?
Yeah, but it's all this thing. Will it happen or not? Everyone.
And how will it happen?
And how? And I must say, I have a little. I'm cautious in the hope for cinema. I think we really have to defend cinema and the films we are doing, because they are under threat. I have the feeling. Cinema in general, but this is the experiment field, you know, that feeds everything else, and you mustn't underestimate it. And so I hope, but I'm a very optimistic person, so I'm sure we'll find a way.
We are optimistic as well. Our festival starts on October 13th, and so hopefully it all works out a bit as we hope it will.
Here we had the opening night of Pelican Blood last Thursday, and although there's really, the audience is like not even half of the people that can fit in the room, but these eyes under the mask, you know, that are longing for some input, and for some, you know, that is all worth it. So I have the feeling we all long for that, you know, we're longing for it, and it will keep its place.
Definitely. Thank you so much for being with us digitally today. Hopefully we'll meet each other once at one of the next editions of Film Fest.
I would love to.
Live in Ghent.
Yes, I would love to come.
Thank you so much.